Okay, Erev Tov, everybody. Good to have everyone back on our Monday night class. We're going to pause at least for 1 week after this. And next week seems to be a very busy scheduling week, so we'll resume Bezat Hashem in a couple of weeks. But right now, we're focused on this week's Parashat Vayishlah. I want to just dedicate this shiur for the refua shelema of Yadashashuim, Ezra, Michael, Ben, Yitzchak. Kadosh Baruch Hu should send him a refua shelema. Bezrat Hashem. Parashat Vayishlah is a difficult one to read as a Baal Koreh, and deals with a lot of different mini episodes of Yaakov Avinu. Most famously is the encounter with his brother Isaac and his preparation to in that meeting, not knowing what's going to be, knowing that the last time he saw his brother Esav wanted to kill him, and he was afraid. He's afraid of that encounter, and he prepares himself strategically. It turns out to be not that bad. That they meet, and Esav gives him a hug and a kiss, not knowing machloket whether that hug and kiss was sincere or not. But it seems that as they were walking together, Esav, come to my town, come with me, and Yaakov kind of doesn't want anything of it. And he says, "Okay, you go to your place, I'll go to my place," and that's really the end of the encounter. The parasha continues with the unfortunate, but before that encounter, mind you, I forgot to mention, was the fight, the wrestling match that he had with the angel of Esav as they were traveling. That has a lot of significance in our history. That angel of Esav is the Yetzer Hara, which that episode, that little scene there, is really what Maaseh Avot Siman Abanim. I was debating whether to talk about that, but I chose not to. But really, our fight with the Yetzer Hara is a constant battle, and we wait until the end of days, when the Alot HaShachar, when the sun goes up in the times of Mashiach, where that will no longer be. We will not have to fight the Yetzer Hara, but the Saros Shel Esav is something that we battle constantly. So then after the encounter, we have the unfortunate story with Dinah, who was violated and raped by Hamor, Shechem ben Hamor, Shechem the son of Hamor, which eventually leads to her brothers taking vengeance, Shimon and Levi, going after convincing them that they could join our nation if they just got a Brit Milah, and waiting until they were most vulnerable and in most pain, they go and they kill them all, wipe out their city. And the parasha concludes really with a outline of the children of Esav and his descendants, and as well the kings that lived at the time, and that really concludes the parasha. Today, I want to speak about something that I mentioned. When you look at all the book of Bereshit, and you see really how the hand of God really protected our matriarchs and our patriarchs in incredible ways. How they watched over our forefathers. Lo iniach leish leoskam vayochach alehem melachim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not allow any man to wrong them. He rebuked any kings concerning them. Everyone remembers how Hashem intervened when Paro took Sarah, when they went down to Egypt. Vaynaga Hashem et Paro negaim gedolim. He had a lot of affliction, because who are you to take Sarah Imenu? You can't just take Sarah Imenu. And then when Abimelech, the king of Pelishim, tried the exact same thing, also HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to him in a dream and warned him, listen, you're going to die because of the woman that you took. And he got very, very sick, and it wasn't until Abraham really prayed for on his behalf that he got better. And if you look through the entire history of the Avot, you'll see that God really stood over each one of them. He didn't allow he didn't allow anybody to come and wrong them. There were no unfortunate incidents with strangers, outsiders, who contaminated this holy family of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, except for one time, except for one incident. The exception to this was the incident of Dinah, as I mentioned, where Shechem violated her, took advantage of her, And that's the one time where the purity of the family was indeed affected in a very serious way. And it's a one tragedy in the history of the Avot. You can argue that it was tragedy of Yosef and the brothers selling Yosef, definitely, and one that we still pay for. The repercussions still apply right now. But you can argue we got Yosef back. They made peace and lived happily ever after at the end of their life. So this story deserves a lot of study, and certainly 45 minute shiur is not going to be enough to talk about this. I just want to focus on one point. Again, the last few weeks we've been talking about words from Rabbi Victor Miller. We're going to keep on that. What Dinah did is, to begin with, was very questionable, and Dinah was blamed from what it seems like from the pasuk for what happened to her. The Torah tells us, "Vatetzeh Dinah bat Leah," that Dinah went out, lirot bivnot haaretz, to go look at the daughters of the land. She went to see, and because she went out to see and to glare at everybody and to glance at what the world was about. So midah keneged midah, vayar ota Shechem ben Hamor. Who saw her? Shechem, the son of Hamor, saw her. And her going out was indeed the cause of her debasement from the hands of a non-Jew, from the hands of a goy. To go out and look at the people of the land, to go out and explore things that you've never explored or you want to learn about that are not healthy in terms of your spiritual goals, or especially if you are the daughter of Yaakov Avinu, there's nothing really good that you can see. And therefore, the less that you see, the better off you are. And so when Dinah went out to look, that's when this unfortunate event took place. And that's why the incident occurred. Now, Dinah went to see the daughters of the land. That was her curiosity. It wasn't something that was idle. She didn't go out to the bars. She didn't go out to clubs. Her intentions were good. She wanted to see the girls of the land. And she was walking in the footsteps of her ancestors, in fact. The Mefarshim explain that just like Sarah was megayeret et hanashim, just like Sarah was able to convert the women of her time, and that's how she taught her children and grandchildren to follow her footsteps. So that's how Dinah went up. Dinah went lirot bivnot haaretz. She was sizing up the ladies and to see how could I teach them the principles of emunah. She did it for a really, really good purpose. What can I do to these people, these young ladies, that I can convince them and change their outlook, their hashkafa, to believe in Hashem? But there was one fundamental difference between Sarah and Dinah. And that was, Sarah did not go out to the street. When the angels came and they asked Abraham, where is Sarah? Sarah was in the tent. She did her kiruv from the inside, while Dinah made the mistake of going out. Now, she didn't go out to look at the boys, to look at the men. She went out to look at the girls. But the problem is, when you go out to look at the girls of the land, what do you think you're going to find? You're going to find boys with the girls. You're going to find men with the ladies. It was a culture that was not steeped in spirituality at all. So when you're going to go look for the ladies, you're going to find the men as well. And that's where a certain man saw her and took advantage. Now, although it seems a little bit, understood why this happened, our Chachamim actually go a little bit more fierce in their, I won't call it fierce actually, a little bit more delicate. And that's what we're going to really shift our focus to tonight, as to why this happened to Dinah. And the rabbis explained to us that this incident was not so much a punishment for Dinah as much as it was a punishment for Yaakov. It was not only to rebuke Dinah. Dinah was rebuked, but it was a punishment more for her father. Why did it happen to Yaakov that his daughter was violated? What did Yaakov do to deserve such a tragedy? That no father should ever have to experience that their daughter was violated and raped like this. After all, the Torah tells us, "V'chen lo ya'aseh." when the brothers came to argue this with Yaakov, they said, these things just don't happen. And that was their defense, why they went and they wiped out the whole city of Shechem. So the rabbis tell us as follows, and they give us a little bit of background information. Esav, Yaakov's brother, was in the market for a wife. He was single. He had plenty of wives. No, not true. He wasn't single. He had plenty of wives, but he was still looking for wives. And he was always looking for another wife. And Yaakov was coming home from Padan Aram, and he had a beautiful daughter. Dinah was his daughter. And he was thinking that if my brother was to put his eyes on my daughter, Dinah, I'm going to get a son-in-law, which is also my brother, that I don't want. I don't want this. Now, when a man marries a daughter, when a man marries a woman, he's also marrying the father of the girl, right? The father-in-law plays a very important role. Same thing the other way around. When the person marries a son, you always got the mother-in-laws there as well. So that's how young men have to think. You look at the pretty face of your wife and go, oh, I also got my father-in-law here that I have to deal with. I see a little bit of my father-in-law in my wife. So if Esav would marry Dinah, that means Esav would forever be joined with Yaakov, who is now not only his brother, but his father-in-law. And that was something that Yaakov didn't feel comfortable with. Again, let me remind you what I just said a few minutes ago, that after that encounter, when they finally met, Esav was actually trying to convince Yaakov to come, let's walk together, let's go to our cities together. And Yaakov said, I don't want that company. The company of Esav is perilous. It's dangerous. It's something that can affect my soul. And I want nothing to do with it. So therefore, when he knew Esav was coming, the Midrash says that he took Dinah and he put her into a box, put her into a trunk. And she traveled with the baggage. This is how Dinah was traveling. But a trunk can sometimes be open. The camels, the donkeys, or the wagons, whatever, are very bumpy. And maybe Esav could peek into the box that she was in. So Yaakov, who was Chacham Haroeh et Hanolad, he nailed down the lid. He made sure that she could breathe, but it was closed and secure. Nothing was coming out. And he did whatever he could to keep Esav's eyes away from his daughter. Now, the Midrash says a startling statement. Lo bikashta le'asiyah derech heter. You, Yaakov, didn't want to marry her off permissibly. Hareni set derech isur. So now she's going to be taken away in a forbidden way. You could have married her off to Esav. Who knows? Maybe she would have had good effect on him. Maybe he would have done teshuvah. Maybe she could have convinced him to be a better person. And the fact that you didn't want to marry her out permissibly, now you're going to get it. And that's why she was seized by this Gentile. It was a punishment for Yaakov, a punishment because he denied his daughter to his brother. So we now have to understand what exactly was taking place over here. Yaakov knew Esav well. They were brothers. They lived with each other for many years. And if everybody knew Esav and his evil schemes, it was Yaakov. And if Yaakov actually thought that Dinah could reform Esav, then he would have been the first one to make the match, if Yaakov really felt it. But he was convinced that if this matrimony would take place, it would be a tragedy for Dinah, and it would be a ruined life for her. And he could never do such a thing. So if you think about it, Yaakov should be totally justified in not only taking his daughter and putting her in a wooden trunk, but closing the lid and nailing the lid shut. He was probably even doing a mitzvah for his daughter, to save his daughter from a regan marriage that had no positive repercussions from that would probably stem from it. Most rabbis, if you were to ask them and say, listen, my daughter has a potential shidduch, but the guy is a murderer, right? But he really likes her. The rabbi will tell you, what do you do? Get her away. Lock her up in a cabin and then close and shut. Bolted with all the locks that you can find. Right? I think many people would say that. So yet the Chachamim say that Yaakov was punished because he concealed Dinah. So that's something that we're going to understand tonight. So this question has been, asked and answered by many different people. The Alter of Slobodka, one of the great Musar yeshivas of the world, said that Yaakov, yes, he was fully justified in what he did. And there's no criticism in the action that he took. He had no alternative. He was forced to hide his daughter. What did he do wrong? They would say that when he was closing the lid and he was nailing it shut, he was, to put it simply, he was banging it with too much force. What does that mean? Now, to put a nail in wood, you require force, obviously. Nails just don't go in easily. But what are you feeling and what are you thinking when you are actually closing that lid? What he should have been thinking is, if I could have just married my daughter to my brother, it would have been the happiest day of my life. If only my brother would have been worthy. If only he was a good person and I could have done this marriage, then it would have been great. And this is hurting me that I have to close my daughter into this chest. Yaakov Avinu was punished for refusing his daughter to marry Esav? No, he wasn't. That's not true. Yaakov had to conceal his daughter because his brother was evil. Yaakov was the Ishtam, Yosef Oalim. But the fact that it didn't bother him that he couldn't do it, that there was no chance whatsoever, that was a slight imperfection on the part of Yaakov. Now you might like this explanation, you might not like this explanation, but regardless of whether you like the answer to the question, it's going to lead us to the topic tonight. That in Shamayim, in heaven, a person's thoughts are measured much more than they're over here. Here, in fact, they're not measured because nobody knows what another person is thinking right now. You could be thinking in your head, man, this rabbi has no idea what he's talking about. And I would know. You could be giving me the biggest smile. But I don't know what's going on in your head. But in heaven, it is measured. It's not enough just to do, but you also have to think. That's a big chidush. We would think it's enough to do. We would think it's perfectly fine. Just get done what needs to get done. And the thoughts being examined, that's extreme. And even though the thing is fully permissible, but if the intent is not fully kosher, the mind is not kosher, then the act becomes different. It's not the same act. The greater you want to be, the more refined your thoughts have to be. The Chovot HaLevavot, Duties of the Heart, one of the great Musar books of all time, he actually goes in depth about this. Because most people, again, think that purity of the mind is not a big subject to talk about. But he actually says, Ra'ui lecha shelo tit'alem lifkod machshevotecha v'rayonecha. It's important not to neglect to examine your thoughts and your inner motives. Ki rov ha'hefsed ve'atikun b'ma'asim lo yeh ki'i machamata. Because when you do acts, when you perform actions, in most cases, they are only valued based on the amount of intent that accompanies it. Everybody can pray tefillah. Everybody can read words. But if you don't have intent, if you don't have kavanah behind those words, then your tefillah doesn't really go far. That's a very important statement, what he just said. That the value of your act actually depends on how much you're invested in it, and how much you're willing to try, and how much you're thinking of it. Because even the most beautiful act, the most beautiful deed can be ruined and stained and deformed, be considered meaningless by lack of proper intent. And that's why the Chovot Levavot takes the time to let us know this. Al Ken, he says, you should make an effort at all times that whatever you do should be thinking of God, specific to Hashem, whatever you're doing. Otherwise, you're losing the entire merit and the entire virtue and whatever reward of the act. Today, it's almost like we're stooped so low that just if someone commits a good thing, oh, Hazak Baruch, we got minyan on a winter day. We should be happy. Mincha was at 4:30. It's so hard to get a minyan, and they came. Good, pat him on the back, and we're happy with that. We embrace the person. Their motives might be totally rotten. It could be they got a flat tire outside and they were stuck here, and that's why they came to shul. And then because now you're keeping mitzvot, but you don't have the mind. How can it be? So here down on earth, you're saying to yourself, okay, good job. Let me give you a hug. You didn't act. But in Shamayim, it's not the case. In heaven, it's not so. The motives are most important. And when something is done without participation of your mind, then the chief part of who you are, of your personality is missing. That's why we say every single day in Uva Letzion Goel, we say, V'yasem belibenu ahavato v'yirato. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu should put in our hearts the fear of Him and the love of Him. Leman lo niga larik velo neled labehala. That we shouldn't toil in vain, and that we shouldn't give birth for nothing. For nothing means without any proper intention, without purity of the heart, without enthusiasm. If it's done by habit, without any thought, if it lacks meaning, then we are laboring in vain. So let's bring a few examples. You move into a house. You move into a house and you have to put mezuzot on your door. And of course, you're doing it because the Torah commands you to do it, right? So I take a mezuzah, I put it on all the doors of my house, and you're very, very happy. You paid good money for these mezuzahs. You went to the rabbi, you made sure that it was a good parchment, and it was a good sofer, and everything's great. And you're standing by the door, and you're hammering in the mezuzah. But what's going on in your head when you're hammering in that mezuzah? The act is great, chazak, you fulfilled the mitzvah. But what's in the mezuzah? What's the mezuzah going to do for you? To protect your house? The rabbi said that the mezuzah protects my house from evil spirits and evil demons. Good. So now what? The worst mazikim, the worst damagers in life, if you fail to recognize what the mezuzah is doing for you. The mezuzah is a reminder of Kucha Berichu, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu who loves you. That's why the parasha of mezuzah is found in the first parasha of Shema, which is Ve'afta et Hashem Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha. What's it doing there? What does the mezuzah have anything to do with loving God? Why is it in that paragraph? Go put it in Parashat Kedoshim, Parashat Kittetzeh, where it talks about tzitzit. Go put that in. That'll be a nice place to put mezuzah. We're doing that because that's what mezuzah is for. Is that we have to love God with all of our thoughts, all of our emotions. So therefore, when I put this mezuzah, that's what I have to think. That's what I think about. So now you're all saying to yourself, Mr. Bo, I already put up my mezuzah when I moved my house. I moved my house 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now what? It's not too late. Because when you walk through a door, you put your hand in the mezuzah, you kiss the mezuzah. It's the only mitzvah that we have that we're constantly reminding ourselves of it. I tell students that it's not a mitzvah to kiss the mezuzah. The mitzvah from the Torah is to affix the mezuzah on the door. That's it. So why is it that every time we go on, we're kissing the mezuzah? Why? Okay, I did the mitzvah. Now I'm protected. No, because the purpose of the mezuzah is to recognize the greatness of Hashem and the love of Hashem and the fear of Hashem. And every time I see that's so. Okay, you put up your mezuzah 10 years ago, 15 years ago in your home, but now every time you walk by, this is what you got to think about. What you think about every time you touch it. It's much better than just putting it up there and forgetting about it. You wear tzitzit. All right, men wear tzitzit. Now, some people put their tzitzit out, some people tuck it in. So I look at somebody else and I see their tzitzit out, and then I remember, the man tizkeru, kol mitzvot Hashem. I look at the tzitzit, it reminds me of all the mitzvot of God. Very good. But what are you feeling when you're putting on your own tzitzit? Uritem oto. There's no end to what you should be thinking about. When mothers are putting tzitzit on their sons, they're putting on tzitzit that every single morning is part of their uniform. Even the mother should be reminded of the mitzvot, because I have to think about this. Is ubanu bacharta mikol amin, ubanu bacharta mikol am velashon. We were chosen for this purpose. It doesn't take long. It's a very quick thought, but it's a thought that has now transformed your act into something a lot more meaningful. And therefore, it's important to remember the intent that a person is thinking of every time he does so. Think about tzedakah. Okay, you have $1, you have a quarter, whatever it is. Now, it could be that you may not want to give $1. I'm not in the mood to give tzedakah. Okay, so you avoid this guy who's coming down the hall. So you go around and find another guy coming down the hall. Okay, now I'm stuck. They're both coming. Now I got to give the tzedakah. Now, so you give the quarter, you give the $1. Not the greatest act, but you still fulfill the mitzvah. Okay? We're going to see that. You still fulfill the mitzvah. But imagine if you put a little thought into it. Imagine every time somebody walks into the Bet Knesset and he's collecting money for whatever cause that he's collecting. We get quite a few of them every single day. Almost. Imagine you're thinking, you know what? Hashem ohev aniyim. Hashem loves the poor. And Baruch Hashem, I'm in a situation that I can help. And therefore, I'm his emissary. I'm his shaliach. Hashem loves the poor people. And that now you've just transformed from what would have been almost a meaningless act of taking $1 or a nickel or whatever, $5 and giving it without any emotion. And now you've thought about it. Now, of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu eno mekapeach sachar ko beriah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't take reward away from anyone. If you're deserving of the reward, you will get the reward. You hung the mezuzah without thought, you're going to get the reward. You gave tzedakah because the guy bothered you and he said, please, 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 please. Okay, here, fine. You're still going to get the reward. But it's nothing compared to the greatness that you will achieve when you add thoughts to all the things that we do. And if you take this idea further, that it's not just a question of perfecting our mitzvot, it's a question of perfecting our entire lives. The Ramban, Nachmanides, famous Spanish commentator on the Torah and the Mishnah, he makes a comment in the line in Pirkei Avot. The line says, "V'chol ma'asecha yiyu l'shem shamayim." That all of your actions, all of your deeds be the sake of heaven, and the not Nachmanides, the Rambam. Rambam is Perush writes that there are many books, if they were written, wouldn't be suffice to explain this statement. V'chol ma'asecha yiyu l'shem shamayim. Now, we read this every single year every time we study Pirkei Avot. All your actions should be for the sake of heaven. We agree with that. But why is the Rambam so excited? Why is he so turned on with this statement that he feels like we could write dozens of books for this? It's because this short statement is the lev. It is the heart. It's the nucleus of what we're here for. It's the most important element of our lives. V'chol ma'asech. Everything you do. It's not just the mitzvah that you do. Kol ma'asecha, not kol mitzvotecha yu l'shem shamayim. All of your actions should be l'shem shamayim. And that's not easy to do. But if you do it, it transforms your life. So because when a man looks at his daily schedule and his daily program, and most of us here today have our routine. We know when we get up. We know when we have breakfast. We know when we get our first coffee, second coffee, and third coffee. Okay? We know Monday nights we're going to come here. Whatever it is, you have your daily schedule. And you will realize that probably only a very, very small part of your schedule is devoted to service of Hashem. You have to make a living. You have to go work. So what's my service to Hashem? I come in the morning to pray. I come in the afternoon to pray. Maybe I get a half an hour of learning. Okay. But while you're at work, 9 to 5, where's your avodat Hashem? Where is your kol ma'asecha yu l'shem shamayim? Now, of course, Rabbi, during lunch, I wash my hands. I say hamotzi. I say birkat hamazon. Chazak u'baruch. Okay, good. I'll give you 30 minutes. So now you got an hour in the morning. You got an hour at night. Maybe a 30 minutes of learning. So you have 2.5 hours plus 30-minute lunch, 3 hours. But you're awake for 12. More. You're awake for 18. So you got 3 hours. It's not good. That's not a good average. Not batting well. You'd probably be demoted to the minor leagues if what are you going to come to Hashem? 3 hours a day? That's my service of God? How does that work? So therefore, everybody has to get on board with V'chol ma'asecha yu l'shem shamayim. So now, what does that mean, Rabbi? I can't enjoy life. Now, forget about it. Forget about my vacations. I can't make money. I can't be rich. No, that's not what I'm saying. And to think that is wrong. Rabbi, that means I can't marry a pretty girl. Rabbi said, marry an ugly lady. Why? Because then it's l'shem shamayim. It's for I'm getting married for the sake of having. Because if it was a pretty girl, then I'm marrying her for her looks. I'm not marrying her. No, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And to think that is wrong. You can marry a pretty girl. You can make money. You can go work. You can eat a big fat lunch, a nice shawarma lafa. You can get comfortable on your couch. You can sleep. You can relax. You can do all the things that you normally do day in and day out, like you're doing right now. You just have to add the kavanah, the intent of l'shem shamayim. So then what's going to happen? The guy's going to look and he goes, that guy's a faker. That guy's a faker. He's fooling everybody. He's not doing a shamayim. He just wants to make money. Look at that. You're telling me that he's eating that shawarma sandwich and then he's going to be l'shem shamayim? Come on, give me a break, Rabbi. That's a mistake. It's not a mistake. Whatever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing, you could transform your life with a little bit of thought. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't expect you to give up your livelihood. He doesn't expect you to just stop everything you have. But while you're busy living that life, why not add that intention? Why not add that kavanah? It becomes so meaningful now, your life. So the question is, how do we live with thought? How do we live like this? What's the direction to take such a great ideal and incorporate it into our lives? So let's talk about work. Most people here, are in the stage of their life where they're working. Maybe people listening are also working. If you're retired, chazak baruch. But let's talk about work. There's a lot of people, I will probably vouch to say, that in the 90 percentile would say that they feel that their working is a total waste of time. Why do you work? I work to make money. End of story. I work because I gotta provide for my family. Do you like what you do? Many people don't. You get your pay stub at the end of 2 weeks or at the end of the month, and you look at half your salary is gone. Where? Oh, it's going to the government. Going to taxes. Oh, even better. Makes me feel so good. Why? Why taxes? Because the government has to support people who don't have jobs. Oh, great. So now I'm working because there's a lot of people who are maybe lazy or don't want to work or whatever it is. Welfare. That's so half of my salary is going to that. So already you probably don't like your job. You're just doing it because you have to put food on the table and put a roof over your head. And I gotta give half of it away to the government because, like, how's that supposed to make me feel good? And so therefore you go to work. People go to work, whether it's an office job or it's a factory job or whatever it is, and he's miserable, and he feels that he's wasting his life, day in and day out. So now you want to transform your life. You want to transform your work. How do you do it? So you practice on working the Shem Shamayim. No change. You're still going to go to work. You're still going to drive to work. You're going to make your phone calls. And if you're a plumber, you're going to turn the pipes. And if you're an electrician, you're going to wire what you need to wire. You're just adding some thought to it. How do I add some thought? Well, let's see. The Torah tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to work. Sheshet yamim ta'avod ve'asita kol melachtecha. It's a command. 6 days you shall work, and you will do whatever you need to do. And then Yom Shabbat comes, and you will. So now I'm going to work because I'm fulfilling a dictum of God in order to prepare me for Shabbat, which is a totally separate conversation. Okay, we can speak about that another time. But now I'm going to work, whether it is for the purpose of getting to Shabbat so I can enjoy Shabbat, or whether because God wants me to work, because I have a family, and He expects us to work to support ourselves. Now I'm doing it. It's Reshon Hashem. It becomes the will of God. That's called Avodat Hashem. As surprising as it may seem, but when I'm thinking of that, I'm servicing God. I'm going to work because I got kids. And because of my kids, I'm doing this to raise a generation of holy, righteous individuals. I want to provide for them so that they can grow up and do whatever they want so that they can serve the community. And they can serve their family. And I'm going to go support my wife. And that's why I'm going to work. Support your family. So you start off with one customer. You start off with one day. You start off with one client. I'm going to deal with this customer, L'Shem Shamayim. My dealings with him are for the purpose of Hashem. And the more frequently you think of that, then it changes your day completely. And the next day, you're going to deal with this guy, L'Shem Shamayim, and this lady, L'Shem Shamayim. I'm going to stock the shelves. I'm doing it, L'Shem Shamayim. Imagine you're a butcher. And you're a butcher and you sell meat. And your whole life, you sell meat, a lot of meat to customers. In the end of the day, what does he get? He makes money like everybody else. He likes meat, whatever it is. He has different cuts. Very good. But you can argue that at the end of the day, okay, what did you gain? But now add one more element to it. If this Jewish butcher would stand behind the counter and say, you know what I do for a living? I make Jews enjoy life. I make Jews enjoy a good piece of meat. I make Jews experience Shabbat and Yom Tov like nobody else does. Because I provide them with the Simchat Yom Tov, Basar ve'yayin, Simchat Yom Tov, meat and wine. I do that. Especially in the olden days where you didn't have supermarkets, you just had meat stall. You had to actually go to the butcher and tell him what piece of meat you wanted for your Shabbat, for your Yom Tov. I want the hind. I want the shoulder. I want this cut, the round cut. You told him what you wanted and he cut it for you. So instead of it just being a job and saying, okay, $69 a pound, you owe me $42. Now it's, look what I'm doing for this Jew. I'm helping him make that experience of Shabbat so much more meaningful. Now, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to do? And isn't it a shame? Isn't it a pity that most business owners don't think like this, or most butchers don't think like this? Yeah? Leman lo niga larik velo nered labeala. So that we shouldn't be a waste. So who are we working for? What about the people at home? What about the stay-at-home moms? Nashim tzadkaniyot, women that they stay home and they do what they can, and some of them nowadays may have to work, so side jobs, but a lot of that's the way of life it was many years ago. You're working hard, you're toiling for your children, making sure the house is in order for when your husband comes home, dinner is ready. You have a lot of kids, just it surmounts, and it becomes almost impossible, but they work hard. I don't take anything away from that. But let me ask you one question. How are you different than a non-Jewish mother who's also staying at home? And the answer is you're probably not. You might have Shabbats and Yom Tovs, but the non-Jewish mothers who are staying at home are also taking care of their kids and also getting their kids dressed and showered and doing their homework and dinner on the table and the house tidied up for when their husband come home. So now, obviously, it's much better than if you just worked for yourself and just, you want to be that independent woman who didn't want to get married and didn't want to raise a family. But now, what happens if you change that intent? What if, when you're making the dinner, when you're cleaning the house, or when you're getting your kids dressed and you're helping them take a shower, it's, I'm raising Jews who are Mamlechet Kohanim, Begoy Kadosh. I'm raising little children who are part of a nation of priests and a Goy Kadosh, a holy nation. And these little boys and girls are going to be Ovdei Hashem. They're going to be little God servants. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm waking up super early to prepare the lunches and getting them dressed. And I know it's a rush and it's so hectic every single morning to get carpool and to drop them off, but I'm dropping them off in their Jewish schools so that they can get that education. And when a Jewish mom feeds her child, she's also an emissary of Hashem, who is potech et yadecha u'masbiya lechol chai ratzon. Hashem, who opens up his hand and satiates all the living. And I'm giving that to my kids, because without my kids, they can't eat. Without me, they can't eat. They don't know how to make food. So now I'm fulfilling this pasuk that we say every single day. And that's how you're different than the non-Jewish moms. That's what makes us different. It's not just in the matter when we feed our children or we get them dressed, even when we do it. No one's saying that you're not allowed to chew your food. There was once a guy who said, okay, the rabbi said I should not take any pleasure in this world, so I'm not chewing my food, and just swallowed his food straight up till he got sick. Went to the doctor, what's going on? I just swallowed my food. Well, that's why you're sick. Part of the digestive system, you need to chew your food. God created you with saliva in order for that purpose, to chew your food. It says, ve'achalta v'savata. You shall eat and be satiated. Not ubalata v'savata, and you swallow and be satiated. There's eating. There's nothing wrong with eating. Let the saliva run. Let the juices of your stomach do what they need to do. Enjoy. Go to town. Go out with friends. Go to a restaurant. Enjoy life. Spend money. You don't have to eat bread with salt. Those are for the great tzaddikim, the Baba. We're not on the Baba Sali level. We're not the Baba Sali levels. Even the Baba Sali had his arak also. And we're not on those levels. We can enjoy. But while you're enjoying them, while you're having your steak, while you're having your shawarma, while you're having your sufganiya and your sushi, do it for the what's your intent? What's going on in your mind? Try it when you go right now when you're having your food. Try when you go home. You say, okay, I'm eating this food because I want my body to be healthy so I can serve Hashem. And all your families will look at you and they'll think you're from outer space. What happened here? What did mom just say? what happened? They're gonna think you're crazy. Okay, they're gonna think you're crazy day 1, day 2, and all of a sudden you're gonna say it every day. And if you're too embarrassed to say it out loud, just say it to yourself. Say it to yourself. Hineni ochel kedei lehavri et haguf kedei sheuchal la'avod et Hashem. I want to make my body healthy so I can serve God. And if you sit down to eat with that intent, you serve God, and you have the power to transform your deeds and your actions into something much more noble and much more precious in the eyes of God. Even when you sleep, that's what it is. Say something, I'm going to sleep, L'Shem Shamayim. It will revitalize who you are. It will revolutionize your entire mode of living. And imagine how you will turn out to be if you keep on doing this frequently, day in and day out. Imagine a man and a woman is convinced, now I'm sleeping not because I'm tired, I'm sleeping because this is the Ratzon Hashem. This is what God wants. And after a while, you now expand this into all parts of your life. Bechol ma'asecha, yu l'shem shamayim. All of your actions should be l'shem shamayim. It's a pity to just do without infusing in our actions what we are thinking. Because once you add thought and your intentions are noble, you acquire something very valuable. That was Yaakov's mistake. And that was his mistake. That he could have just, if only my brother was good enough that I would want to give my daughter to marry him. But no, he was too thrilled with just nail it down as hard as you can. No way is he going to see my daughter. And because he was such a tzaddik, the measures of the tzaddik, the actions of the tzaddik are measured with a very, very fine tool. And the combination of Yaakov's lack of thought and with Dinah going out to scour the land or scour the girls, that led to very, very tragic consequences. It's one answer. You don't have to agree with the answer or accept what happened. Although Rashi does bring the whole thing with the box, that's not something made up. Rashi quotes Midrash, but nevertheless, the foundation, the yesod is there. That our actions should go hand in hand with the thoughts, should be accompanied by proper thoughts, proper kavanot, and when you do so, eventually you will expand. You call ma'asecha l'shem shamayim. That is the goal. That's how we transform our lives. That's how we become different people, different mothers, different fathers, different individuals, different workers, employees, employers, whatever it is. Our lives will change. B'ezrat Hashem should be zocheh to that and much more. Amen. Keni Ratzon. Have a wonderful night.